Good morning. We are here for the Commissioner Student Advisory Council, and the Commissioner, Dr. Robbie Fletcher, is going to uh, introduce us to the agenda, provide our welcome, and go through some of the items we have today. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you so much, Ms. Turner, and it's good to see a few of you. I see you have your cameras on. It's great to see students again. And again, I know as far as we have a pretty busy agenda for today, we'll do we'll have a summary of the last meeting. I think we have Dr. Tucker will be here to do our mindful minute. I'll come back on and give some updates from our Kentucky Board of Education meeting from February. We also have some items here to talk about with our non-voting student member applications for the Kentucky Board of Education. We'll go over that in shortly. Also an exciting announcement about the Ag Education Week. And then we have some time for member sharing. Looking forward to that. And then we'll talk about our next meeting date and then adjourn. Before we get started, I do have some just different areas to go over with you folks that the students may have some interest in. But before we do that, I would like just to take a moment just to have a moment of reflection. The weather recently first of all, Daniel and I kind of just talked a little bit about this before we got on here, but the weather for this year and all the different things we've seen throughout our districts, there's been a lot of times where we've missed school. For example, in Western Kentucky, I talked to a superintendent that was facing severe river flooding. And for those along the Ohio River and other tributaries, there's been a lot of that backwater and a lot of river flooding that they've seen. But also, too, in week before last, you also had in Pike County. I'll give you an example of Pikeville Independent. Pikeville Independent itself had the most water it's had in its building since 1977. And I believe they're scheduled to get back in school on Thursday. So they were out all week last week and had ServPro to come in and had students actually and teachers and a lot of others to come in and help clean. They're scheduled to be back in school on Thursday. So thankful for Pikeville Independent being able to do that. But also too, Pike County, which is the county system, talking with their superintendent, Mr. Freddie Bowling. They actually have a K-8 school. It's called Elkhorn City. It's right on the border, really close to Virginia, that there's no access to it. The road is gone. So a K-8 building that they just don't have access to. They're going to have to build a new road to get to that school. And then talking about how to move those two students possibly to the high school. So again, a lot of our districts are facing some hardships, Pike County being one, Pikeville Independent, and then so many others across the state that have had flooding into some of their schools. So we could just take a moment of just a reflection and a moment of mindfulness just of those people. I'd really appreciate that. So if we could this time, let's do that, please. Thank you so much. And for those, for our students that are on here, if you face any type of flooding or issues like that, our thoughts are with you also too. Just again, there's so many hardships that we sometimes we don't see in different areas of the state, and anything from of course, in our tornadoes that were in Western Kentucky a few years ago, other flooding in Eastern Kentucky. There's just so much that our districts go through to make sure students can get back to school, but also just make sure that the community is back to as normal as possible. So again, our thoughts are with everyone there. But also I have some updates I'd like to provide before we go into the Mindful Minute. Want to congratulate two students, Ashley Billiter from DuPont Manual, and also our chair, Peter Jefferson from Henry Clay, who were selected for the U.S. Senate Youth Program. Each delegate will receive a $10,000 college scholarship for undergraduate study. Ashley and Peter will also be attending the 63rd Annual Washington Week in Washington, D.C., which is from March 1st through 8th. And again, the Washington Week is an intensive week of educational activities designed to deepen the students' delegates' understanding of the federal government and give them direct access to those who lead it. So congratulations again to Ashley and Peter, and looking forward to maybe some information about that as we move forward. Awesome. I've been working with Commissioner Shell and also Commissioner Jonathan Shell, and also our Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman. And we announced the first statewide Ag Week, Agriculture Education Week in Kentucky, and it's scheduled for March 17th through the 21st. Governor Andy Beshear will be signing a proclamation that week to officially mark the event. But we are encouraging all elementary schools to engage students in learning about agriculture during that time. And you'll hear a little bit more about Ag Week a little bit later from one of our speakers. So again, it's a very exciting time, and we've dubbed this All In for Ag. You'd be surprised at all the different jobs and careers that are available. Everything from drone technology to agriculture, of course, economists. There's all these different areas that are impacted by agriculture, and we need jobs in there. So I'm looking forward to that week as well. Also, too, something else that this group had a direct impact on was the launch of Futurity. I've said several times that the critiques that we got from this group has really improved that website. We did have an event at the Capitol Rotunda, and it's the new platform. It just really tries to help students to find their future, if you will. And it's a state-specific data. And we allowed students here on this group to navigate that data and give that website and give back feedback that was put into this Futurity website. So if you have the opportunity, you have, and I hope you get on futurity.org to look at that. The Council on Post-Secondary Education has led this work primarily with the assistance for the Kentucky Center for Statistics and here at KDE. The website is organized into three main sections that are designed to lead Kentuckians through the process of choosing career path, continuing their education, and sharing their career. And again, there was a virtual ribbon cutting that happened at the Capitol Rotunda on February 4th. So again, I'd like to thank all the students that had some great input into this website and our in-person meeting that we had in the fall. So thank you so much for that. Also, too, I finished up a group of town halls. I think our ninth town hall is scheduled for Thursday in Ashland. I've been in everything from Eddyville, out in Lyon County, and out west, all the way to Hazard so far. And I'll be in Ashland on Thursday. But we've been able to have town halls where people come in and had input about the new accountability system. And so far, we're approaching 500 to have attended these town halls to talk about the proposed accountability system. The goal of the town halls is really to let people learn more about the vibrant learning that's going on in our districts. Matter of fact, Woodford County was one of the districts that presented at one of our groups. And again, we do have Patrick, I believe, is in this call today. But Woodford County did present in our one in Lexington and talked about the collaboration that's going on across so many districts when it comes to our profiles of a learner and a local accountability system. We do have, again, the final town hall is from 5 to 7 on this Thursday at KEDC. So if you're in that area and you'd like to attend, we'd more than happy to have you to be a part of that. And then also, too, one of the best parts of my job is I get to participate in different award ceremonies. And I was able to work with 2 different districts, and this was an award that was reestablished by our governor and by the lieutenant governor, and it's for our classified staff, and it's called the Kentucky Education Support Staff Professional Award. Mr. Graham in Taylor County, Sam Graham, was recognized on January 9th, and he's been driving a bus for over 6 decades. Yes, I said that correctly. He has been driving a bus longer than I've been alive. That's a hot minute, if you will. Mm-hmm. But it was to hear the stories that were coming from the people in the crowd about his dedication to students, and sometimes and his talking about how just watching a kid come out of their house to make sure that they had food, and how he could help with those students. And sometimes it's talking about the people in the crowd, just talking about how he would just sometimes just hug a student just because he knew that they needed one. But again, Mr. Graham has been driving a bus for, I think he said, 61 years. That's hard to imagine. And he still subs and drives I think just an evening run at that. We also had Miss Kim Franks. Miss Frank is from Covington at Latonia Elementary. She has done everything from organizing bingo nights to having all these different clubs for vibrant learning. I think she has a cooking group that she works with. up at Latonia Elementary in Covington. And this dedicates so much of our time to the students there in Covington at Latonia Elementary. And the winners of this KESSP award will be submitted to the U.S. Department of Education for the 2025 National Award called Recognizing Inspirational School Employees, or the RISE Award. So we have two great applicants for that national award that we wish them the best. And that's again, Mr. Graham and Ms. Franks. So we're very excited about that. Some other things that's happened. I've been able to visit different districts. I will share one in particular. I was able to visit Somerset Independent recently. And one of the things I got to see was their they were national champions in the solar car race that was held in Texas. They broke records for how long the solar car was going, how fast it was going. And they actually beat out the previous year's national champion as a part of that solar powered car that they designed. And I think I posted some things on social media about that. Their school mascot is the Briar Jumpers, but their team was called the Somerset Solar Jumpers. So again, we have a lot of those national award winners that are throughout our Commonwealth. That's just one I'd like to highlight. But again, I've also been able to visit the new Woodford County High School and some other areas there too. Looking forward to getting out and seeing other schools as we move forward. So again, very thankful for that. I have provided an overview of our agenda, so I will turn it back over to, I believe, for the roll call members and for them to be approved. Unless there's any questions from the group for me.
I don't know anything about the test, to be honest. I think it's all multiple choice. I think it's.
All right, no questions? We'll go back over to the roll call, please.
And Peter and Daniel are going to take over at this point. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right? All right, perfect. All right, this time we're going to take roll call. So I'm going to call everyone's name in alphabetical order. When you hear your name called, if you can just put in chat present or preferably unmute and say here or present. Starting with Lisa Abrampaugh.
Present.
Mary Beth Poland.
Here.
Graham Borden.
Here.
Annie Cockerham O'Donnell. Annie Cockerham O'Donnell. Okay. Isabella Edgehill.
Here.
Angie Fox.
Here.
Manas Garla.
Here.
Preston Graham.
Here.
Samara Higgins. Samara Higgins. Okay. Onette Irakiza. Onette Irakiza. Okay. Alan Columbia.
Here.
Sophia Langford.
Here.
My apologies. Gabriella McAdams.
Present.
Tanvi Rakesh.
Here.
Daniel Ratley.
Here.
Luisa Sanchez Almenarez.
Here.
Abigail Sears.
Here.
Sophia Staples. Sophia Staples. Okay. Kwa Ta. Kwa Ta. Austin Vitito.
Here.
Aliete Yanis Medina. Aliete Yanis Medina. India Young.
Here.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'm going to pass over to my co-chair, Daniel Ratley, for approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
Daniel, before you do that, I did see Annie on here too. I just want to make sure that she was kind of present. So Annie was also on here too.
Okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, back to you.
Okay. Does anybody motion to approve the minutes? And we also need a second to approve. Okay, I can approve, and then we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, I guess after that, we can move on to the next part of the meeting. So I can pass it on.
We should get the members to signify if they vote for the minutes.
Okay. Does everybody approve? Say aye. Type it in the chat, maybe. Just, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We will move now to the next portion of our agenda, and we're going to hear from Dr. Thomas Woods Tucker. He's going to lead us in a mindful minute. Dr. Tucker.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thumbs up. How are you doing? Thumbs up. Very good. Very good. Ms. Turner, would you advance the slide, please? That's at the end. We're going to go forward to the beginning.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
What is the first slide?
Okay. The next slide should be a welcome back Student Advisory Council. But if not, don't worry about it. We're fine. Let's go back to the beginning, to the first slide. Okay, we'll stop there. We're going to go through a couple things before we get to the quote and the journaling. I'm going to first start out by first saying that today I'm playing the role of Dr. Michelle Searcy, and apparently we're not doing too good of a job. We don't have all the slides together, so I want to mention that. But I do want to say that we have some really fun things to do today, and we'll get you started here during this mindful moment. Welcome back. The last meeting we had, we talked about the stress cycle. We know that the stress cycle is a physiological process that the body goes through when it is confronted with a stressful situation. It's sort of like walking down the street and you're confronted with a dog, and you go through what's called the fight or flight process. You run, you get away from this bad dog, and then you calm down. And then the next thing that you all talked about was the progressive muscle relaxation process. And that's really is a stress reducing process or technique where your muscles are tensed up and then you relax. So it's a non-pharmaceutical way of relaxing your body. You learn to tense your muscles up and then relax them, and you feel what that relaxation is. Thank you, Ms. Turner. I do appreciate that. That's the slide we're on. So again, that was a quick recap of our stress cycle and our progressive muscle relaxation. Now let's go on to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. There you go. Thank you. Now, I know many of you are in your buildings, your school buildings, and hopefully you're not in class. Now, if your school district has a no use cell phone policy, I don't want you to take out your cell phone at this time. But if you can take out your cell phone, I want you to take out your phones. I'm going to give you a minute to take out your cell phones. And I want you to go to your alarm section. And I want you to take a minute to look at what your alarms look like. 1, do you have multiple alarms? 2, do you have just one alarm? Or 3, you don't have any alarms? So if you would put in the chat 1, 2, or 3. We'll take a minute or two to do that. And again, don't tell your teachers or your principal that Dr. Tucker has given you permission to use your cell phones if you have a no cell phone use policy. Okay, Ms. Turner, we're going to go back to the next slide. We're going to go, there you go. So the question we would like to ask, are you a morning person or do you get out of bed at the last possible minute? And I would like for someone or a couple people to share, if you feel comfortable coming off, please share what sound or song you use for your alarm. Now, it has to be, a decent, respectful song. And then also talk about what motivates you to start your day. Do we have anyone who would like to share? PJ.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm more of a, I have just one alarm for the morning, and I use the, I think it's called the Canopy sound. It's one of the iOS ones. But I think what motivates me to get up in the morning is mostly that I try to have some sort of task, like a small task to do in the morning that helps wake me up. So even if it's just like cleaning up one part of my desk or doing 2 math problems, having a little task tends to wake me up pretty well.
Anyone else?
Alan says in the chat that he's a morning person.
Yeah.
Okay.
What wakes me up is brushing my teeth, surprisingly. So I have way too many alarms. They ring like 5 because I don't wake up easily. So yeah, brushing my teeth wakes me up. So I just do that and I'm all good.
Very good. Very good. And Ms. Turner, do we have anyone else in the chat? We have a couple more minutes.
Yes,
hear.
Seth has hand up.
Okay, Seth, go ahead.
I only need one alarm in the morning. I'm kind of a morning person, but mine is set to fresh start, and I think what motivates me is walking into the school building and saying hi to all the hall monitors and staff on the way in. I think it just really sets me up for a day of having a positive attitude and being productive.
Very good. Very good. The start of your morning, yes, and the start of your morning really can dictate how the rest of your day and afternoon is going to go. So thanks for sharing. Okay, we're going to move on now, Ms. Turner, to the next slide. I know this year you all have been journaling, and you've talked a little bit about the benefits of journaling. We're going to take some time today, about 5 minutes or so, to continue practicing journaling. So if you have your journals with you, please take those out. Or if you have a pen and paper, if you don't have your journal with you, if you have a pen and paper, please take that out now. So we're going to give you a minute or two to take out your journals or get some pen and paper. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at 4 powerful quotes from popular books that I'm sure you all are familiar with. You may have read them. Even I've read 1 or 2 of the works. And what we want you to do is find the quote that is speaking to you, and write a reflection about what the quote means to you. What does it, What does it make you think about? And how do you relate to it? Or if there's a quote from a book that means something to you, you can write about that one instead. If the other 4 quotes or from those books don't resonate with you, if there's a special book in your life, you can write about that instead. So we're going to take about 5 minutes to look at the quotes and again write about this reflection about what it means to you. What does it make you think about, and really, how do you relate to it? Okay, so let's go ahead, Ms. Turner, and advance to the next screen where the quotes are. So here are the quotes. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The second one, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us. J.R.R. Tolkien, The Fellowship of the Ring. And the third quote, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And then the fourth one, we accept the love we think we deserve. Stephen Chbosky, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And we're going to leave these up here for about 4 or 5 minutes so that you can go ahead and answer those questions. Again, find the quote that's really speaking to you, write a reflection. How does it make you think? And really, how do you relate to it? Again, we'll spend 4 minutes on that. And before we get started, I want to thank the commissioner. He did a great job of modeling the positivity and the usefulness of a mindful minute when we stopped and reflected on what our fellow citizens are going through across the Commonwealth with the recent floodings and with some of the devastation that's happening here in our great state of Kentucky. Okay, Ms. Turner, we can go on to the next slide, the final slide. Here I want us to feel free to come off mute and share your thoughts. When we engage in activities like this, and we take time to think and reflect about different aspects of our life for our own mental being, it's really about slowing down. And it allows us to process our emotions, but also helps us to gain clarity, build self-awareness, and develop really a sense of empathy and understanding for our colleagues, for our neighbors, and again, for our folks across the Commonwealth. And journaling really is a powerful technique, and really pleased that Dr. Searcy introduced this journaling activity to us. And being able to journal and comment on some of these quotes is great. The quote that I selected, and hopefully I can model this, is that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you, by the great writer and poet and civil rights activist, the late Maya Angelou, in her book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It is very difficult, and I know young people and older folks like me, have some types of stories inside of us that we can't share, and it does build some agony. And so I would always encourage us to have that relationship with a family member, and also with a caring adult in your school that you can share things with. So that's how that quote makes me feel, and that's sort of like my experience. So now we're going to go ahead with the next few minutes and ask a couple people, Mr. Turner, to please share out. Do we have a couple hands who would like to share out?
Alan has his hand up.
Okay, please. So let's talk about, share your reaction to your quote. What is your quote? And if someone else chose a quote that wasn't there, please share that as well. All right, let's go ahead.
I am sorry, I do not have my hand up. It's
Okay, that's
Okay.
okay.
the old one.
All right. We will move on to Preston. Has his hand up.
All right. Hey, y'all. The quote I decided to go with was, "All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." That was the Tolkien quote, and that really just spoke to me today. We are only given so much time on this planet, so I've always had the mindset of make the most of what you have in the time you have. And another reason that it, well, personally, another reason it spoke to me is that today is actually my birthday. I'm joining y'all on this on my birthday, and 17 sounds a lot older than 16 does. So that really spoke to me today. So, yep.
Thank you for sharing. A couple more.
Isabella has her hand up.
Yes, I also chose the Maya Angelou quote. And I kind of reflected on like the importance of some of my friendships, because I've just found lately that being able to talk to friends and, share my untold stories, so to speak, has really helped me feel a lot better in this kind of stressful time of senior year. So that's kind of what I reflected on.
Beautifully stated. And also, folks, if you're not comfortable coming off mute and sharing, please feel free to put your reactions in the chat. Anyone else?
Yes, Seth has, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Graham has his hand up.
Yeah, so the quote I picked was also, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." And what I really gained from that was not being true to yourself and not allowing yourself to embody your unique identities can be harmful. So knowing how to surround yourself by people that support you is something that'll be really vital to your success in the future and your ability to share your stories without feeling like you have to keep them inside of you, so that way they don't weigh you down as you continue on.
Thank you, Graham. And Lisa?
Yes, so I also chose the quote, "All we have to do is decide what to do with the time that's given to us." And it sounds so simple, but it's packed with meaning for me. Because it's like, well, all we really have to do is like decide what we're doing, but it brings so much stress. I know for a lot of us, we're like juniors and seniors. We're trying to decide like what college we're going to, what program we're doing, and that's really just deciding what we're gonna do with our time. But it's so stressful. So taking the time, like remembering to be mindful, like you all have told us, it's just something that I think is really helpful. And we have to do it. We have to do it. Yeah.
And lastly, anyone who wrote about a quote from a book or a passage that we didn't list that they would like to share?
Seth has shared in the comment about the Maya Angelou quote.
Okay. All right.
Is truly meaningful. I think so many people have not only incredible past, but broad futures ahead. I think so many people try to push themselves away from greater accomplishments because they don't think it's the right thing to do, and they carry that untold story inside of them.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, thank you, students. Thank you for taking this time to share with us and to participate in this Mindful Minute. And again, we certainly want to thank everyone here, especially our commissioner, again, in modeling the Mindful Minute. This was something that I wanted to incorporate first time doing this activity, bringing the journaling in with some of the contemporary things that you all are dealing with your alarm clocks, with technology and so forth. So again, thank you, and we'll turn it back over to Ms. Turner.
Thank you very much. And we are going to have some updates on the non-voting student member But what, I'm sorry, we seem to be. We will go ahead with Glyptis Ann Jones is going to, the Director of Education Policy, is going to update us on the Kentucky Board of Education non-voting student member applications.
Thanks, Rosalind, and good morning, everyone. As Rosalind mentioned, I will be speaking with you all today about an opportunity that some of you or your classmates may be interested in, and then also a request for the council. So first, I'd like to mention to you that that applications are currently being accepted for our non-voting student member of the Kentucky Board of Education. And we do have Preston Graham here on the call. He's on the council and he currently serves as our non-voting student member. So Preston may have some words of advice or encouragement if you're looking or interested to share a little bit about his experience as a non-voting member. But we are currently accepting applications for non-voting student members. This is for a position to serve for 1 year with the Kentucky Board of Education. The service term would be from July 1 to 2025, July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. The Kentucky Board of Education has 15 members. The governor appoints 11 voting members, and then there are 4 additional members, non-voting members, and that includes a student and as well as a teacher. The application process we have included here on the slides, and we also have additional details on our website. But just briefly, for those who are interested, you must, if you could go back a slide, Rosalind, when you can. The students must reside in the 1st Congressional District. That includes 35 counties, and we've included those on our slide here and as well as on our application materials. We are, again, you must reside in those counties. Additional required materials include an online application, a resume, a narrative statement explaining why you wish to serve as the non-voting student member, 2 letters of recommendation, a parent statement of support, and there's an optional school statement of support that can be included in the application. Again, all of those details are listed out in full on the application. We are also accepting applications for our non-voting teacher member for those who currently reside in the 3rd Congressional District, which is in Jefferson County, part of Jefferson County. If you go to the next slide, please. Again, and I believe Rosalind will be sharing these slides with you all as well, which includes links to those, the application materials. I would encourage those interested to please note the application deadline, which is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 11. We've included additional information again on our website. And then I'll point out briefly, we have 701 KAR 5:160, which is hyperlinked on the slides, but it outlines the process for selection and appointment of our KBE non-voting student and teacher members. If we go to the next slide. And the selection process for our student member includes an ask of our Commissioner Student Advisory Council. This Commissioner Student Advisory Council, or a subset of the council, will review eligible student applications and recommend to the board 3 candidates for selection as the non-voting student member. And so for those who are interested in serving in this capacity, I believe Rosalind is including some information in your meeting exit slip for those interested in serving in this capacity. Anyone on the Student Advisory Council is welcome to complete that. There's not a congressional district assignment associated with that, but the special committee members will be asked to independently review applications for the non-voting student using a provided rubric. And you are also asked to attend 1 virtual meeting to discuss scoring and to identify the 3 finalists to send forward to the Kentucky Board of Education for consideration. If you're interested, I would please ask that you note both this commitment would require both reviewing independently and attending the virtual meeting. I'll pause. I'm happy to answer questions, and I believe the next slide includes some information about how you can email me directly if you have any questions. Again, would like to encourage those who are eligible and interested. Please note that you must be a junior at the time of application, but encourage those interested to please consider. And as I mentioned, Preston, currently a member of our Student Advisory Council, is our non-voting student member, and included a picture there. And I know Preston has spoken about his role on the board before. So I'll pause for any questions.
Is there anything that Preston would like to add? Preston, I hate to call you out on your birthday, but is there anything you'd like to add about your experience on the board?
I would be happy to talk. Yeah, I mean, I've been very open about this. When I first applied, or first filled out the application, I did not expect anything of it. It was a complete Hail Mary for me to even get selected for it. So yeah, since then I've been so overjoyed with the position. It's obviously led me here to the Zoom meeting right now. So I can't say thank you enough, and I would highly recommend it to anybody, any sophomore in the 1st Congressional District to at least take the time, give it a shot and apply, because you'll never know what happened.
Anything that maybe that you want to particularly share about a board meeting that maybe you enjoyed, or and again, I will say this: Preston has had a lot of input at our board meetings and has provided some great insight as a student. But Preston, is there anything in particular about any particular board meeting you'd like to share? Be kind to the commissioner, by the way.
To that notion, I am very grateful for the board. I believe they've been very gracious in accepting my continued feedback, even though I'm like a fourth of the age of some of the people on that board, with about a 32nd of the amount of experience. But no, I'm very grateful. I'm very happy. And yeah, I don't know if you want me to name a specific highlight. I mean, even just getting to know all the board members has been great. The board meetings themselves are nice, but even just the time you get to spend connecting and talking to each of the board members after, and just in the dinners and the just lunch sessions, just being able to have those conversations has been very beneficial and useful to me.
Thanks,
Very
Preston.
nice catch there on moving from 1/5 to 1/4 the age. I won't say that to any of the board members when I go back in, but no, in all seriousness, Mr. Graham has provided a lot of great input, and our board members truly enjoy having a student person there for their voice and also their insight. A lot of times we can talk about things, but the people who are actually seeing what actually goes into motion day by day by day are students. Those are the people that see that more often. So again, we do appreciate that, and we'd love to have, looking forward to whomever would like to be a part of this in the future. Thank you so much, Preston, for your service. We appreciate it.
Exactly. Thank you, Preston. And just following up on what Preston highlighted there about the opportunity to collaborate and learn from and sit alongside our board members. Our student members are paired with a board member. So there's also an opportunity for mentoring, sort of a mentoring relationship there that you're able to gain, opportunities to talk about career exploration, incredible experience and insight into the education policies here in Kentucky. So if this is something of interest to you, please share, again, note the application deadline. We do encourage you to please share this with your respective networks and your schools, and for those in the 1st District. And then, as mentioned, please follow up with Rosalind if you're interested in serving in that the special committee to review the applications to help recommend finalist. Again, thank you, Preston, for sharing here, and happy birthday, and happy to answer any questions anyone may have by email. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Rosalind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jones. And to get us back on track, the Commissioner, Dr. Fletcher, has a few updates on the February Kentucky Board of Education meeting.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. I really appreciate that. And again, since we were talking about the board meeting, some of the topics that you'll see, we'll talk a little bit about February in particular, but you'll see topics very similar to this in each of the meetings. Of course, it depends on what's going on. You'll see, for example, there's always during this time of the year updates for our board members of what's going on in the legislature. We'll talk about different bills. We'll talk about different things that impact education and the things that we're promoting. Also, too, in our board meetings, you'll have opportunity to listen to the ABRs, our additional budget requests, that say these are the things that we prioritize, whether it be technology or whether it be early learning or whether it be educator recruitment. These are the things that we're asking our legislators for, and you have input on that. You get to hear those type of conversations. But in particular, in February, we did take some time to recognize that it was Career and Technical Education Month, which was on February 5th through the 7th, that we recognized that at our board meeting. And the CTE month is a nationwide effort to raise awareness of the role of CTE in readying learners for college and career success. Kentucky has more than 135 state-approved career pathways in 13 CTE program areas. And the Kentucky Department of Education also collaborates with local school districts to develop region-specific, locally approved pathways. In addition, KD operates 50 area technology centers that serve 115 local school districts. So again, a lot of times people get confused. We do area technology centers because maybe one particular district can't offer enough pathways so they can be a part of our ATC network. For example, I'm looking at a map here. The ATC for example, in Greenup County can serve not only Greenup County, but also Russell, Ashland, Fairview, Raceland, Worthington, Carter County, Boyd County, Lewis County, and surrounding counties. So there's a lot of different opportunities in those ATCs. Like, for example, if you got a very small district, for example, in Fulton County it'd be a struggle for them to be able to maintain an area technology center on their own. So to have an area technology center where we can help them provide that and also serve the counties around them, that helps us out and also helps out our students to have more opportunities. So when we talk about 50 area technology centers, those are the ones that are operated by the state that we have direct input on what goes on in each of those. Now, there's also local career technical centers, which is a different funding mechanism. For example, Lawrence County, which was where I was superintendent, we weren't part of an area technology center. We had a local technology center, which was funded locally with the help, of course, of state and federal funds. But also, too, KD also hosted the 3rd annual CTE Showcase during the Kentucky School Boards Association Conference in the Galt House in Louisville on February 21st. And this year's event featured 24 schools from across the Commonwealth showcasing their high-quality CTE programs. So that was a great event. I was there and kind of went through some of that area, so I was very impressed with what was going on. But also, too, one of the big areas of focus at the February board meeting dealt with the SEEK shortfall and the funding program. And for those of you that may or may not know, our SEEK formula it's formula driven. It's an allocation of state funds for all 171 districts. And the formula itself includes base funding as well as additional funds for transportation, students for special needs, also for free and reduced lunch. So there's some extra quote unquote add-ons that go into this SEEK formula. This year we had a shortfall for there's 2 parts to the SEEK formula. 2 parts of funding. One, there are things that are statutorily required. So what's statutorily required deals with the SEEK formula itself. There's also a portion that's quote unquote as funds are available. For example, many of you are in a high growth district that you have so many students are adding on a regular basis that our funding formula doesn't really compensate for that. So if there's additional funds from the state legislature, it'll help out those districts that are growing at a rapid pace. So again, what came out of the statutorily required was we had about a $14.7 million shortfall this year. And again, those are based on projections that were done back in November of 2023. So again, we're in 2025, but the budget projection started in the fall of 2023. So the amount required was about 0.53%. So the shortfall was about 0.53% out of the total SEEK funding. Now, if you look at the funds available, there would have been $26.1 million additional. very thankful and working with the governor and the Office of State Budget Director that the governor has, and his lawyers agree with our lawyers that we feel that the governor himself can reappropriate funding to take care of that 14.7 million, and he's agreed to do so. Please keep in mind, since 2010 till now, a shortfall has only occurred 4 times. And kind of give you a reason for the shortfall this year. One of the big reasons is the explosion of the ELL population in Western Kentucky and other parts of our state, and also in Central Kentucky. We estimate, when I say we, the Office of State Budget Director and KDE offered estimate X number of students, but we were off by about 8,000 ELL students of that explosion. So that's part of the formula that we underestimated. Other things is our attendance rate is going up across the state, which is a good problem to have. But since our funding is based on attendance, that means it costs more money from the state to go to schools, again, which is a great problem to have. So we underestimated that one by about 4,000 students. There were also some underestimates when it comes to special education. One of the big areas, though, that was also included, when you look at the funding formula itself, it's also based on local tax dollars, or I'm sorry, local property assessment. And the property assessments have been going up in all across the Commonwealth almost on an exponential type pace. Maybe not quite exponential, but on a very fast pace. Well, we estimated, when I say we, again, with the Office of State Budget Director, another big increase. But since that increase didn't go at quite that rate, that means in order to compensate, there has to be more from the state to compensate for that. If there was still growth, just not at the rate that we thought. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that. Now, as I mentioned before, since 2010, there's only been a SEEK shortfall 4 times, and the last one occurred in 2017. But during since over the past couple of years, we've had a surplus. So, for example, last year, there was a $156.3 million surplus. The year before, I think there was somewhere around $46 million surplus. So in the previous 2 budget cycles, there were some overestimates, if you will, and there was extra money, if you will, a surplus in the last 2 years. So based on the numbers that are given, 2 years prior, there was a surplus in education funding of about $200 million. And then when there's the more conservative approach and the changes I talked to you about, there was a shortfall this year. So when there's a surplus, whatever's left over after all the districts receive what they're statutory required, and also after they receive whatever extra funding, if you will, with what's not statutory required, then whatever's left actually gets moved back into the state budget, not for education, but the overall state budget. So in those years when we had the 200 million, all that money, if you will, got raked, and that's what the term we've used around here, got raked back into the state budget. Now that there's a shortfall, we have to ask for that money to come back to us. And again, we're very thankful that the governor helped us with that here recently. So thank you to Governor Beshear for that. Also, in our last meeting, we talked a little bit about the 2025. We had the opportunity for Jennifer Montgomery, who's the Kentucky Teacher of the Year, who has done a phenomenal job there in Eminence Independent School District. She told her story, which started in Trimble County, where she actually grew up without running water or even a telephone service. So I know that's kind of a foreign concept to us, but to so many of us, is not to have running water and not to have a telephone in our house. But that's how she grew up. And one of the points that she made during her presentation to the board is where you come from doesn't limit who you can become. Oftentimes people will use something that happened in their past as a crutch to say, I can't do this, or just because this is my background, I can't do this. Instead, she used it more of a springboard to push her forward to be a teacher and come back and make a difference in students' lives. So thankful for her story. She is currently on a 6-month sabbatical with KDE as part of her Teacher of the Year work. And her role as Teacher of the Year will focus on elevating the importance of excellence and professionalism in teaching and the profession, assisting KDE's efforts to grow, strengthen, and diversify Kentucky's educator workforce. So again, we're so thankful that our Kentucky Teacher of the Year, Jennifer Montgomery, had the opportunity to present to our board. And there were many other topics. And of course, as always, if you want to send me a text or something that matter, I'd be more than happy to share any other information, or if you have any questions, be happy to do that. That being said, I think I'm very excited to hear more about our Ag Education Week, and I'll turn it over to Miss Bethany Mattingly. Miss Mattingly, if you will, please. I'm sorry, Miss Mattingly, you're on mute right now.
Thank you. So I'm Bethany Mattingly. I'm the Director of Ag Education and Outreach for the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. And as we get into what agriculture education is, if you could put an emoji in the chat that is what you think of when you think of the word agriculture, that would get us a great start.
We are having a little technical difficulty. Could we have just a moment, please? And then Bethany will let you get back started.
Okay. Looks like Seth has got some options in the chat there for what they think about for agriculture. Ooh, FFA, I like it. If you're currently in an ag class and you want to drop your ag teacher's name down in the chat, I'll give them a shout out too later today. Oh, I like the flowers. Very cool. Little barn emoji going on. I guess that's might be a gift, but that's really cute.
Okay, just one more minute, and I appreciate your patience. Okay, we are ready, Bethany. I apologize.
No worries. We're all good. Mr. Perrin. Okay. I'll see if I can give Mr. Perrin a shout out later today. Thank you for that. We had so many great answers in the chat. I so appreciate that. As Commissioner Fletcher said, we are working at KDA with the Department of Education and Lieutenant Governor Coleman to bring the very first ever Kentucky Agriculture Education Week to the entire state. And we have a primary focus in elementary schools for this year, but we do have some options for middle school and high school to get involved. And so I get to talk to you today about what that looks like and what that means for us as people who are involved in education. So if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. So you can find all of our information about Agriculture Education Week using our website, and I'll put that in the chat at the end of today. So you can go on there and you can find all kinds of resources, or if you want to share it with any of your teachers, then you can do that too. And then next slide. So what is it? Basically, this Ag Education Week is a chance to bring more education centered around agriculture to the classroom. So we do a ton of stuff in our daily lives that interacts with agriculture in a variety of ways. And it's one of those things that sometimes we just use it so much that we don't even think about it. So we want to make sure that all the students who are in schools in Kentucky understand agriculture and value it because of the impact it has in our lives. And it goes well beyond what we think of with traditional agriculture. Next slide. So I'm hoping you all will play a game with me because I was a teacher for 12 years and my favorite thing to do is play games. So this is our game. It's called Is It Ag? So you're going to see a picture and then I want you to put in the chat. You can do a thumbs up or thumbs down. You can say yes or no. Do you think this is agriculture? So we've got an astronaut in space hanging out there with the stars. Do you think this is agriculture? Is there something that you can connect agriculture with this? And you can just put that in the chat. We got some no's. Ooh, we got a yes. And you can, again, do a thumbs up and thumbs down if you prefer, or you can say, I don't know, it might be. So this actually is agriculture. So the reason why this is agriculture is we're constantly doing experiments on the space station and in outer space, especially related to plant science, because we want to know, can plants grow in different environments beyond what we expect them to do on Earth? And so one of those experiments that they're doing right now involves soybeans and anti-gravity, or in an environment that has different gravity than what we experience here on Earth. So even though you wouldn't think that being involved in outer space or being an astronaut would have that much to do with agriculture, this is still agriculture. Next slide. And we have another one. Do we think this is agriculture? We've got a dog and a cat there. Yes or no in the chat? Whole bunch of yeses, all flying in. Y'all are too good. So yes, this is definitely agriculture. Anything involving animals does fall into that agriculture field. Fantastic job. Next slide. All right, we've got a florist making a flower arrangement. Do we think this is agriculture? Nice, lots of yeses. We had some of those emojis earlier with some flower bouquets too. So yes, this is agriculture. Anything working with plants, that means that it's involved in agriculture. Next slide. Oh, here's the next one. All right, so we're at the zoo. We're feeding the giraffes. Is this agriculture? Is a zoo considered something involving agriculture? This one's a little bit tricky. Got a couple yeses, couple nos. Okay, so this actually still is agriculture. So all the zoos and aquariums in the United States are certified and inspected by the United States Department of Agriculture. So that means even being a zookeeper means that you're involved in agriculture, or even attending a zoo means that you're involved in agriculture. Next slide. Oh, deliciousness. All right. Is this bakery involved in agriculture? Yes or no? Lots of yeses. Yeah, anything involving food is definitely agriculture, because we're taking that into our bodies, and obviously we have to produce that somehow. So we have to grow the wheat that we use as flour to put into these different bakeries, or you can see it's got lots of different fruits and stuff on there too. And those also have to be grown and produced. So that means that this is also agriculture. Next slide. All right, this is our last one. This is a Ferris wheel. Is the Ferris wheel a part of agriculture? What do you think? Yes or no? This one's a tricky one, I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to stump you. Got a couple no's, got a yes. Oh, if you relate this back to State Fair, I like that, Commissioner Fletcher. So you can relate this back to State Fair, and State Fair basically, I consider it a celebration of agriculture, because you're putting together all these different things that producers have grown over the summer, and you're trying to see who has grown it the best way or who has produced the best goods. So you can relate it that way as a part of agriculture. And also, all of those rides have to be inspected, and they're inspected by the Department of Agriculture. So there's kind of two different ways that you consider this agriculture. So the goal here is we have to think about agriculture as well beyond what's on the dinner plate. It's also like what we are wearing. And what I used to tell my students as an ag teacher was, you can't go 5 seconds without somehow interacting with agriculture. Because even if you pick up a pencil, the pencil is made of wood. We had to get that wood somewhere. And odds are it actually came from a tree farm. So that would mean that it is also agriculture. And I used to play a game with my students, which was kind of like stump the teacher on can you find something that is not related to agriculture? And I will say I lost 1 year, but that was only because I didn't actually understand what it was that the student had learned in their science class. And so it took a little bit for me to figure that out. But there are so many different ways that it connects to our daily lives. And that's why we want to make sure it's important that students have exposure and an understanding of agriculture in Kentucky, because eventually you guys are going to become adults and we want to make sure you're ready for that next step, whether it's a career in agriculture or in any other field, because almost all careers somehow interact with agriculture in some way. Next slide, please. So this week is made up of 9 different initiatives. They have all different kinds of activities and things. A lot of them are geared towards that elementary school level, but we do have options for middle school and high school as well. So we have a literacy lesson, and just the other day we packed up these books at Franklin County High School with their FFA members. And those are getting shipped out to all the elementary schools in the entire state for the literacy lesson. We have Mystery Farm mascots, where all the grades K through 5 have a mascot, and then that gets revealed throughout the week who their mascot's going to be. We learn a whole lot about agriculture careers, especially those ones that are a little bit unusual, like Commissioner Fletcher was talking about being a drone pilot. And there's all different kinds of careers that connect with agriculture that you may not think of. So if you've ever thought about going into IT or working on computers or website design or anything, we have a whole department within the Department of Agriculture that does just that. So there's all different kinds of things that intersect with agriculture that you may not think of. So we're working on that Clue In on Ag Careers to let people know what those different careers are. Then we have the Real Ag Experience. Give me a thumbs up if you like field trips. Anybody? Give me a thumbs up. You can do that in the chat too. The Real Ag Experience allows students to go in, thank you for those thumbs up, I appreciate it, to go to a farm or an agribusiness and learn more about the work that they do. So that means you get to do a tour, you get to learn more, you might be able to make something depending on where it is that you get to go. So this allows students to go onto the farm or in an agribusiness to learn more about the industry itself. Then we have Stories About Ag. So Stories About Ag is where you can volunteer. If you are in high school, you could go back to an elementary school and volunteer to read a book about ag. And then we are also working with Kentucky Farm Bureau. So their volunteers are going to come in and they read a book. It's kind of like Farmer Reads a Book, but you don't have to be a farmer. You can just volunteer to go and read a book to little kids about agriculture. So that's fun. We have a science lesson that our friends at the Department of Education developed. It's pollination if you are in kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then it's erosion if you're 3rd through 5th. And those science lessons are so much fun. You get to do like all kinds of activities where you're actually like trying to solve problems, which is fun in the classroom. We have Ask an Aggie, which I'm going to talk to you about a little bit more in just a second. We have Harvest for Home. I'm also going to talk to you about that one. And then we have Letters for Farmers. All 3 of those are things that middle school and high school, we're opening that up so that you can engage in those activities as well. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with those and then talk to you about how you can volunteer locally if you want to do that. Next slide, please. And as we're going through this, if you think of a question, feel free to put that in the chat and I will answer that for you. So how does this impact you as a student? So the ones at the bottom there that have a green arrow, those are things that you can engage in if you're at the middle or high school level, and hopefully those will be in your classes. If you look at the yellow arrows, those are things that you could do to volunteer. Next slide. All right, Ask an Aggie panel. This is one of my favorite activities that we have. So this is kindergarten through 12th, and we're having a live panel where basically your school can sign up to get a registration link. And then we'll send out that link and you can basically have like a webinar like we're having today. And we're going to have this entire panel together. And then you can ask different questions of that panel. So you'll submit those questions in advance. And then you can ask any of these individuals, or you can ask the entire group. So you could say, you know, I'm interested in going into agriculture as a career, but I can't decide, do I really want to become a veterinarian, or would I rather be on the production side of things? Like, maybe I want to raise a sheep farm or have a horse sanctuary or something like that. What kind of advice do you all have? So all of these individuals have been involved in agriculture professionally for quite some time. And some of them also are young adults. So we have a representative from 4-H and a representative from FFA at the state level, and they can talk to you about the opportunities that those different organizations bring to the table too. This is also going to be hosted by Miss Kentucky. Miss Kentucky is a Kentucky Department of Agriculture employee. And she is a spokesperson for Kentucky Proud, which you may have heard about in grocery stores and things like that. And she's also a spokesperson for Kentucky Agriculture. So she's going to host the panel. And then we have a whole host of different individuals who have been involved in agriculture for a while. So they can kind of give you the rundown on what to expect if you decide to go into this industry or if you just have questions. This is going to happen March 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And basically your teacher just signs up your class to participate, and then you can submit questions in advance if you would like to do that. Next slide, please. Harvest for Home. All right, so a lot of times education happens in the classroom, but it can happen outside of the classroom too. All of you all are leaders within your school and within the state. And so this is an opportunity to showcase that leadership and kind of stretch those skills even a little bit more. So this is where you're looking at your community or your county and saying, what is it we could do to make a positive change? So you're trying to harvest time or skills or resources to make a positive change in your community. And this is definitely student-led. So this is not where an adult is telling you what you have to do or what you think they think should happen. You're looking as like a student leadership group into your community or into your school saying, what is it we could do to make a positive change? So I'm going to give you a couple different examples. This could be something like a student government or student council takes on at a school level. You could also collaborate with different schools. So let's say that the elementary school really wanted to start a food pantry for students, and they could do the thing where they're collecting all of those canned goods and foods that are shelf-stable, but they don't have a place to put it in. If you're currently in a shop class or an ag class and your class could build that, then you could collaborate and build that together as a class, donate it to the elementary school. Maybe the middle school is going to get in on it and paint it for everybody. And then the elementary school is going to fill it up so that people in the community have that resource for them. So there's different ways that you could look at this, but it's definitely geared to what do you think your community could use? Next slide. Thank you so much. So this is where I used to teach. I used to teach at Seneca High School in Louisville. And these are some community projects we had that would align with Harvest for Home, just to give you some ideas. So the first one that's really big is a bookshelf, and it looks like a barn. There's actually one in my office too, which is just ironic. But we used to give these out to elementary schools. And I think there's probably more than 20 different schools in Jefferson County that have these now. And then we'd help donate a book every single year with Farm Bureau about agriculture to those different schools. So you're filling up your book barn full of different books. So that could be something that you might want to consider. And you can partner with different organizations. So if you have like the Kiwanis Club, or you've got a local group that wants to do something great in schools, then you can maybe talk to them about partnering up and doing something really cool for Harvest for Home. The top one with all those different flowers, those are flowers that we took to an airport area, the Louisville International Airport, and we planted all of them out to beautify the space. And we've done that for the airport. We did it for downtown Louisville. We also planted almost all the flowers for Derby at Churchill Downs. So maybe you can beautify a space in your community that you feel like could use a little bit of a picker-upper. Those are things that you could do. And then the bottom picture there, we had a donation of tulips. So if you talk to your local Kroger or local florist shop, sometimes they have flowers that are only going to be good for another day or two. And we took these, put them in smaller bundles, and then we donated them to a retirement home. So we're just trying to brighten people's day. That could be different things that you could do. Next slide.
Ag is actually mad interesting.
Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know I was not muted.
You're fine. So we're not asking you to do something that is something you've never, done before. You don't know how to set this up or what this could look like for your community. So we have an idea bank that you can go through and kind of get some ideas from. And then we have lots of different activities that you can go through and say, okay, let's figure out what it is we could do for our school. And this isn't something you have to do by yourself. If you've got that local group of students that, you know, have some leadership skills and want to build some options, then you can go through those. It takes you step by step through the whole thing. So you don't have to worry about, did I remember everything, or did I forget something I should have remembered? It will go through and help you out with those things. And that's through our website, and I'll show you where that is in a second. Next slide, please. All right, this is Letters for Farmers. Again, something you can do kindergarten all the way through to senior year, where you write a letter and basically you're just thanking the farmers for what it is that they do, because they produce so many of the things that we need every single day. So it can be things that you reflected on throughout the week. It can be maybe you did some extra research and you figured out more about Kentucky agriculture and what that means. And you're just writing out what it is that you know about Kentucky agriculture and thanking those people who are doing this every single day and chose this for their profession. Once you're finished writing out those letters, you can drop them off to your extension office or to any Farm Bureau insurance location, and they will get those letters into the hands of farmers to give them a direct thank you. You could also modify this. So if you have an art class and they want to go through and create like an art exhibit to showcase local farmers, you could do that. Or if you're involved or more interested in the technology side of things, you could also produce a video or create some sort of technology presentation to showcase and thank local farmers that way too. Next slide. So how can we volunteer locally during this Agriculture Education Week? There's two different ways, and that's through the Real Ag Experience. I talked to you about that one a little bit as a field trip, but the other part of that is you can also bring ag to the classroom. So let's say that you know a little bit about agriculture, or you want to do like a fun activity. You can do that and volunteer in your local elementary school to teach those kids about that activity. And you don't have to come from a farm or live on a farm in order to do that, but you could volunteer that way. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. And then, of course, there's stories about ag where you could go in and read an ag story to students too. Next slide, please. All right, so this one's a little bit more about those stories with ag. We are partnering with Kentucky Farm Bureau, so you can sign up using the link below to sign up, and they will connect you with a local elementary school where you could volunteer to read a book. However, whenever I taught at Seneca, that building was actually connected to Goldsmith Elementary, so some of my students would just walk over to Goldsmith, and then they'd read a book to them during FFA week. So you could potentially do that for Agriculture Education Week if you have one that's nearby. If not, you might want to talk to your leadership, whether that's a principal or an assistant principal, and see what options there are for you to volunteer to read a book to little kids. My mom was also a second grade teacher, so I probably would have volunteered in her classroom and came in and read a book in the morning and then gotten a pass to go back to school if I could drive. So that might be something that you could do. You can sign up with that link, or you can make those your connections on your own. If you have a parent or you have somebody that you know that is teaching elementary school and you want to make that personal connection, you could do that. Next slide, please. And then this is the Real Ag Experience, where you could potentially go on a field trip, but then the other option is to bring ag to the classroom. And you can see we've got a couple different examples there. So the first big picture is a student who goes in and teaches elementary school students almost every single week different agriculture lessons that she finds online or she creates herself. So you could do that, and you could do that by yourself, or you could do that with a team. The middle picture is actually from my classroom whenever I taught, and I would have my older students come in and teach my younger students. So this could be something that you could do within your school, even though you don't go to an elementary school, or if you want to just teach a little bit more about agriculture to people within your school. And then the last picture there on the right is one of the activities that my students taught to Goldsmith Elementary students. They had a whole dairy week, and so they made ice cream in the classroom. They decorated cows for a bulletin board, and they had so much fun doing that. So it doesn't have to be something super complicated. It can be where you just go in and you share some different facts about agriculture, and then you have them do a fun activity with you. Next slide, please. All right, so questions. You can unmute and ask me any question you want, or if you want to put it in the chat, you're more than welcome to do that too. Any questions about Ag Education Week? And you can go ahead and yeah.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
My name is Peter. I go to Henry Clay High School in Lexington. And in terms of trying to collaborate, say, is this being pushed out to the FFAs throughout the state? And then I'm not a part of our FFA, but I'd love to kind of connect other clubs in our school to the FFA. So what kind of stuff has been pushed out to the student side or the student clubs?
So I'm contacting and have contacted all of the ag teachers across the state. So they have different ideas of what they're going to do at the local level. And some are more involved than others. So if you would like to, connect with them, I would say all the ag teachers have heard of Ag Education Week because we've talked to them a few different times about it. But that would be a really great option to collaborate, especially with different student groups and things like that. Because not everything has to be a direct ag connection. So like, sure, you could collect food and do a canned food drive, or you could do a seed bank and collect seeds or something like that for the Harvest for Home activity. But there's lots of different ways that you all could collaborate and join forces to really make a great local impact, especially in a place like Lexington, where you've got so many different elementary schools that could use extra volunteers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Alan, did you have a question? Okay. Next slide, please.
No, I don't have a question. It's just that the hand raised is not going down. I don't know why.
I understand, no worries. So we're looking to grow this program through the next time that we have an Ag Education Week, and I would love your all's input on that. So what could this look like for the next level if we add more initiatives, especially geared towards middle and high school? So if you could put those in the chat for me, that would be great. Or if you would prefer to unmute and share, you can definitely do that too. So what could this look like at the middle or high school level in the classroom for community involvement? Is there a different way to look at field trips? Or do we have school assemblies? It can be anything that you think would be a cool idea to expand this to middle and high school if we went in that direction in the future. Christy?
Hi. So I was thinking that we could get in contact with the families who are farmers in the areas and ask if maybe we could take a group to the actual farms to be able to visit, see the animals, see the gardens, the flowers, whatever they're actually doing in those local farms close to the schools.
Absolutely. So one of the resources that we're building is called the Real Ag Experience Map, and it's on our website, and I'll put that in our chat here in just a little bit. But you can actually go onto the resources page, and there's a map. You click your region of the map wherever you live, and it comes up with a list of different volunteers who are willing to go into the classroom to teach or to talk about agriculture for students. Or you can scroll down just a little bit and it gives you options for those local farms and agribusinesses who are willing to have students come out and do a tour. So that might be something that you could do locally. As of right now, I believe we have about 280 farms and agribusinesses across the entire state signed up to open up those farm gates or those business doors to local students for tours. All right. If you think of something that we can do, feel free to add that in the chat at any time. Graham, totally agree with that. 100%. We'll be working on that. Nice. Thanks, Isabella. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. And if you've got those ideas kind of rolling out and you need to type them up and it takes you just a second, that's okay. Feel free to continue to put those into the chat. So where can you get those resources that I've talked about? You can go to the Department of Agriculture website. It's kyagr.com. And then if you do /AgEdWeek, then that will get you directly to the webpage that has all of our resources. And that includes all the different lesson plans, everything and more that I talked about today. It includes the resources like that map where you can find a local farm to do an ag tour or an agribusiness tour. And then it talks about why it matters. So if you want to showcase, why it is we're doing this work, then you can click on that. There's also get involved. So you've got some options to volunteer either as an older student or as a community member. So if you know somebody within your community who you're like, that person would be fantastic to talk to, then you can give them that resource as well. You can also check the social media pages of the Lieutenant Governor, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Education, because we're sharing all of those resources leading up to Agriculture Education Week. And as they become available, they're going to be shared throughout our social media. So those are different things that you can do to get that information. Next slide, please. All right, and then this is my contact information. So if you have a question later on, or if you think of something that you think would be a great option for future Ag Education Weeks and you want to share that, you can always share it to my email, and then that's my work number. So if you want to give me a call, you're more than welcome to do that. And if you're anything like me, I'll hear about something new like this, and then about an hour later, I'll be like, oh, I wish I would have thought of that. And so if you ever need to send me an email and say, hey, here's some thoughts I have, or I have these questions, or do you have any suggestions for what we could do here locally? I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you or to give you some feedback. So definitely let me know if you've got that. Love the feedback that's coming in the chat, and I greatly appreciate that. Any other questions that I can answer for you? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. And I said, thank you, Bethany. And before we go into the member sharing, I just wanted to remind everyone to fill out your exit slips. And when you do so, to please indicate if you'll be at the April 15th meeting so we know how to plan for lunch. That meeting will be in person here at KDE. Okay, we're going to have member sharing and announcements. And I think Peter and I will be leading this. Peter, do you have any announcements at this time?
I don't have any specific announcements other than to say that as Commissioner Fletcher mentioned, I am honored to be heading to Washington next week to represent Kentucky, and all of you and everyone across the Commonwealth at the U.S. Senate Youth Program Washington Week. And I just wanted to say that I will be bringing Kentucky's best and trying to represent you all as best I can, and that I'm grateful that opportunities like this exist for myself and for many others to have those same experiences. I would say for sharing in general, if people have recent programs at their school that are related to KDE, had recent visits or participated in programs that they found to be impactful for themselves or for their community, we'd love to hear about that now.
Does anyone have an announcement?
I would like to say, number one, I know that Governor Scholar, the first round of applications have been reviewed and letters have been sent out. So I wanted to say congratulations to everyone who got in. And also, my school is currently organizing a poetry slam. So I've been organizing that school-wide event, and I wanted to encourage others to do the same, to have a week to appreciate literature and such.
Thank you, Seth. Anyone else have an announcement that's going on in their school? Okay, well, I think the discussion today was going to be on agriculture and vibrant learning, and maybe some opportunities that to enhance vibrant learning in the school associated with agriculture. Do you all have any suggestions? Do you have any ideas there?
I'll be happy to share one or two, especially one, if I may, about it's ag related. And part of our town hall meetings, I've been very blessed to hear some of the great things that are going on in districts across the state. And one of those included a young man from Christian County who actually, as part of his work-based learning, works for a drone company. And so he has to step out of class several times a day to get all these phone calls from different people from across the world that have questions for him specifically about drones and his work-based learning experience. They have no idea that they're talking to a 17-year-old in Christian County. But again, we talked about drones being a part of the ag work and how they survey fields and how they maybe treat different areas. But it's just those type of vibrant learning experiences where students are making an impact in their work-based learning is phenomenal. I'll share another one. I was in Louisville at Western High School, and two young men who were on the wrestling team at Western shared with me their dream of having a food truck. They're part of the culinary program. They're at Western, and they were talking about what they were learning through, not only what the produce that's available, but also too what type of how to plate, how to cook, and also the business aspect of it, and how agriculture feeds right into that. So again, two experiences that I've had is either from visiting a school, and one was at Western in Jefferson County, and also too the other was just in part of the town halls that you can hear about these vibrant learning experiences that are going on and see those within our schools and how they're all they're so tied back into agriculture and other areas. So again, I'm two areas that I'm very happy to share about.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. Anyone else have anything they would like to share? Okay, we will close our meeting a little bit early. I will remind you again on your exit slips to tell us whether you're going to be at the April meeting, and to remind you that the April meeting is April the 15th, and it's in person at KDE. And if you have any questions or need additional information, please let us know. And with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
And the second?
Second.
All vote in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.